I'm Lisa Pickering, and welcome to CITV's Press Talk. Here's the most recent news and information from the government of Bermuda.
Good afternoon, members of the press. Good afternoon, Bermuda. Today we would like to announce the result of recent financing by the government of Bermuda. As announced on Friday, September 30th, 2016, the Bermuda government conducted meetings with domestic and international investors, a so-called roadshow, to provide an update on economic and fiscal developments in the country, and to explore potential funding opportunities to address the borrowing requirement laid out in the National Budget Statement for fiscal year 2016-17. The transaction was managed and underwritten by HSBC. The roadshow was conducted across Bermuda, UK, Germany, New York, Boston, and Los Angeles. And the subsequent transaction attracted healthy demand from some of the world's top investors. The transaction closed on October 19th, 2016, today. The government has taken the opportunity to not only finance the fiscal 2016-17 budget deficit of $199.4 million, but also to refinance a $200 million, 5% loan facility, and concurrently with the new issue, engage a targeted limited management liability, a targeted liability management transaction strategically aimed at repurchasing some of our outstanding high coupon bonds. The refinancing of the $200 million loan facility will now result in interest savings of $1.8 million for the government for the next 9 months. And the repurchase of higher coupon bonds will result in annual interest savings of approximately $3.8 million. It is important to note that although the government issued a total of $665 million in new bonds, the total amount of debt owed by government will only increase by $188.9 million. Highlights of the transaction are as follows. On Tuesday, October 11th, 2016, the Ministry of Finance successfully accessed the international capital markets, placing a $665 million US dollar long 10-year bond offering due January 2027. This resulted in a record low yield, a coupon yield of 3.717%, representing the lowest ever for Bermuda, 42 basis points less than Bermuda's former tightest coupon. And I'd like to explain that a basis point is 1/100th of 1%. We also obtained a record low spread, the spread of U.S. Treasuries plus 195 basis points, marks a record low spread and 30 basis points tighter than the government previously obtained in a previous issue. The government repurchased $276 million US dollars of the $500 million 5.603% bonds maturing in 2020. This was the first time in history that the Bermuda government has conducted a tender offer, and this has signaled to investors that the government has now purchased and moved to a strategic mindset in its debt management operations. The new issue and tender offer are expected to reduce pro forma recurring annual interest expense by about $5.8 million per year, or 2.8% of the current deficit. A reduction in government's average borrowing cost has been obtained of 3.85%, is also expected, along with a 1.7-year extension in the entire debt portfolio that we have in government. In a sign of confidence in Bermuda's recovery, a quality order book developed for the new issue, totaling over $1.7 billion, 2.5 times oversubscribed, which supported the transaction during the day. Of the 34 investor groups met, 24 participated. Local Bermudian investors also contributed additional demand in excess of $100 million. There was solid investor distribution underpinned by the USA of 65%, with demand also coming from the UK and Europe of 23%, Bermuda 7%, and Asia and the Middle East 5%. Top quality fund managers and insurance names made up 75% of the order book, with key pension funds and central banks making up a total of 10%. The government team that was involved in the roadshow included myself and Anthony Manders, Financial Secretary. The government team was also supported by key senior officials in the Ministry of Finance, some of whom are here today, and Ministry of Finance headquarters, and also the Attorney General's chambers. This successful capital markets transaction underscores institutional investors' positive response to the Bermuda team's narrative of the progress Bermuda has made to date and our future plans in two distinct areas. A, progress in deficit reduction, and our tax plans to make payroll taxes more progressive and yield more revenue, along with other measures already announced in our national budget statement. And B, progress in restoring economic growth without impairing the government's creditworthiness. The Ministry of Finance wishes to thank HSBC and all other professional advisors for their roles as strategic partners in helping to shape a very positive outcome for the Bermuda government in its recent issue in global capital markets. Those are my formal remarks, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Sir.
Can you tell me why you decided to do this at this time? And was there a particular reason why you decided to refinance?
Well, as you recall, we had forecasting a deficit of just under $200 million for the fiscal year, and we would have had to have done some more financing anyway. We thought it would be a good opportunity to take advantage of market conditions right now, and they all seem to come together in a very successful transaction.
Right. And when you say market conditions, are you thinking of the possibility of a Fed rate rise?
Well, that's been out there, and it hasn't happened yet. Or I guess they had one rate increase. The U.S. economy seems to be doing reasonably well, and there's talk of further Fed hikes. But we saw that this was an opportunity to lock in some lower rates, refinance some other things that we had out there that could save us some money. So the combination of all those things led us to doing what we did.
And was there any kind of pressure from the rating agencies with regard to when the due dates were for all of these debts?
No.
No?
No.
Was that a consideration? In case
No, it wasn't. Everything we do, we take the rating agencies into account. Rating agencies are something that we have to live with, and they're very important to us. But this transaction was more about market conditions, the fact that we needed to do some financing anyway. We had the opportunity to refinance some more expensive paper, and it just goes to show you, with proper financial management, we can save the Bermuda government a significant amount of money, without doing some of the more, should we say, less palatable things that we also sometimes need to do to keep government afloat and keep the deficit clicking downwards.
And you said this is the first time that you've gone through this tender
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
Do you foresee that happening again?
Possible. Yes. I think we're done for now, but again, it depends on our requirements, but also depends on market conditions, and market conditions are right for this thing at this time.
Okay. And that's quite a large sum that's going to be coming due in 2027.
Yeah.
How confident are you that that we can continue to meet these?
Well, so long, I mean, I think it should be made clear that when these bonds are due, it is not required for Bermuda to have the money at hand to repay the bond at that time. What is required is for us to have a good enough standing in credit markets where that can be refinanced. Yes, we have some paper coming due this month. Maybe we did $800 million a couple of years ago. That was also 10-year paper. So we have these maturities coming, and it's our job in finance to plan for them, to see what we're going to do about them. The likelihood of us having money in hand to just pay it off in cash is quite remote. So we have to look at refinancing, and the timing of that is important.
You've been watching Press Talk right here on CITV. Join us next time for your government's news and information. I'm Lisa Pickering.